Hello and welcome, you guys. This is Kayla from Damn the Diets, and today I have the honor to speak with Hanne from Hanne Arts on Instagram and YouTube. So this is exciting. We finally got this to work out after a few weeks of not being able to. So thank you for doing this with me. I'm excited to chat about all these topics that we hear too often, so we want to just cover it together. And if you want to just give like a brief backstory about, your journey and where you are now, and yeah, for my viewers, and then I could do the same for yours. So if you want to watch it on Hanne's page, just the link is in the bio, or I'll find out how to link it in the video. I haven't done that yet, so yeah.
Yeah, alright. I'm excited to be here as well. So, I started my channel in 2015 by just posting one video and not really thinking much of it, and then when I came back, I got a lot of comments, which is how I got into all of this, but obviously there's a whole story that came before. I'm not going to go through my whole childhood, but we moved around quite a lot, and because of that, I was a bit the odd one out, and I got bullied a bit for this at school, which wasn't great for my self-confidence, and which is how I developed my eating disorder initially. So I had some struggles with my weight. I was always quite underweight, and I lost a bit more weight, so I ended up in a foreign hospital, which was very difficult for me, and it's been going much better now, but I did have a bit of a relapse in 2015, which is when I started my channel, but I've been getting a lot of positive feedback on the channel, so I've continued to do this throughout my recovery, and it's been great.
You're so knowledgeable, and everything that you say, I've been following you too, so I love following you, and it's great that you have this safe space and you're creating a community and you're answering people's questions so thoroughly, so it's awesome. And then so you always were naturally thin then, and then the eating disorder just took it to the next level?
Yeah, I was always underweight, actually, also as a kid, but then I didn't lose all that much weight during my eating disorder, but being already underweight, obviously it wasn't that good, yeah.
So you didn't do it for weight loss then, right? You didn't get into it? Where did it stem from? It just insecurities from the bullying at school, or?
There was a lot of insecurity and a lot of stress from moving around and just taking sort of the stereotypical taking control of what I could control, because we moved around a lot. I couldn't control that. I'd been bullied for several years. I couldn't control that. We ended up in Hungary at that point, and I didn't really speak any English yet, so going to the American school there was quite difficult, and I couldn't control that, so I turned to controlling my portions and losing weight.
Gotcha. So it's a control thing, which a lot of us have control issues that get into it. I know that was mine too in the beginning. You feel out of control, whether it's trauma or, just any kind of event. You feel out of control of your weight, appearance, anything, or mind, and then you resort to whether it's an eating disorder or alcohol or work or being alone. It's all forms of control, and a lot of us find out we have control issues and we want everything to be perfect, but then we find out that we don't really have that much control.
Yeah, and I feel like I tried out several of those, so.
Yeah, me too. I feel like a lot of us have, like recovering from drugs or alcohol or any kind of domestic violence relationships, And then that's what we wanted to talk about, is certain things in recovery, which is we hear a lot about extreme hunger. It's a huge one, aside by weight gain, which they tie together essentially anyways. But also we could talk about the binging and veganism if we get to it. So what's like the number one question that you get about extreme hunger, and like what do you usually tell people? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the most common questions is just coming from personal experience. People will say, oh my god, I feel suddenly really hungry all the time, and I don't know what to do because I'm now following a meal plan, or I'm used to eating much less, and I just don't know what to do. Do I follow these hunger cues? Am I going to gain a lot of weight? And I guess the main thing I take away from that is major freak out.
Yep.
So the first thing I usually say is to breathe, because it's quite a common thing, extreme hunger. Some people have it throughout their recovery. Some people have it on and off, and there are people that don't have it at all, but it's quite a common thing. So don't freak out. And also, I think it's just really important to listen to your body and to what it is telling you. And yes, you might gain some weight, but it's not going to last forever. And if you trust your body will learn to trust you again.
Exactly, and it's all about rebuilding that trust again, because your body doesn't trust that it's going to be fed. So you have to, remind it that you're going to be constantly feeding it whenever it wants, whatever it wants, with no restrictions. And eventually that extreme hunger dies down. I find a lot of people, they are asking like, oh, I've been in recovery for a month or a couple months, and is this ever going to go away? And then you dig deeper and you ask them questions and you find out that they're still restricting in some way. And so the extreme hunger is not going to go away if you're still restricting, or if you're purging in any way, whether it's over-exercising or purging, throwing up. And then, you just have to really be honest with yourself. A lot of people are in denial. They're like, no, I'm eating whatever, but then you look into it and they're still stuck on only whole foods. They're stuck on like no oil or no salt, or they're stuck on just some kind of weird restriction, and that plays into veganism as well. But, we talked about that before, and, if veganism works for you, that's fine. But if you're in denial and your body is screaming to you that it wants something else, you need to trust that. And it comes back to the trust again. So, yeah. And what you said about the meal plan too. I mean, how do you feel about meal plans? That's another thing I get in recovery with extreme hunger and meal plans. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think meal plans can be helpful initially if you're finding it really difficult to stick to regular eating.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mostly just to set up a routine, and then afterwards, I think it shouldn't become an obsession. I think sticking to a meal plan is fine, but obviously, if you're hungry, if your body is telling you you need more, then you should eat more. So that's my thoughts on that, I think, yeah.
It really comes down to that. I mean, we try to overcomplicate everything, but really when it comes down to it, it's simple. Like, we have hunger cues for a reason. We have satiety signals for a reason. But, of course, when we're in an eating disorder or restriction of some sort, these get suppressed, and we have to find our way back to what that is. We're so, how are we supposed to follow our intuition and practice intuitive eating if we don't even know what that is? It's been so long, So it's a journey, and people get frustrated because they're like, I don't even know, am I intuitive eating? They don't even know because we get so out of touch. And it's a journey. Just trust in the process, continue your efforts over time, and, you'll find a balance that works for you,
Yeah, and I think because of these hunger cues that are not really working initially, it might be okay to start off with a meal plan set up by a professional dietitian, I think. But yeah, after a while, these hunger cues will come back and they will return to normal. It's something I also talked about in a recent video. But yeah, initially, I wasn't really hungry, but I just kept eating. I kept going, and after a while, it starts to regulate itself, and it starts to become normal again. But then another concern that comes up is that if they start to eat more, they will get used to this new pattern. This is a question I get a lot as well, that they will get used to this new pattern and just keep eating and eating, and that they won't have any control over it anymore.
Yes. So they'll feel out of control again. It ties back into that. They're scared of being out of control. But essentially that's what you need, is to let go of this false ideal that you have control, really. But it's letting go of this toxic control to gain healthy control again, you know? And yeah, I know. So that's another thing with the no hunger. I didn't face it at first, but I did at the same time. It was weird. It's confusing. And maybe someone can connect with this. But because I had told myself for so long that I needed to be raw vegan or, fasting all the time too, and I didn't, like, I should suppress my appetite. Like, healthy human beings should have no appetite, really. You should be able to function on a lesser amount of fuel. And so, like, I believed this. Like, I truly believed this because I had been telling myself this story for so long. Like, I couldn't see outside of it. So even if I was hungry and craving something and I smelled like eggs cooking in the kitchen from my family, I'd be like, oh no, like, that's not good for me. And I would deny it. I was in denial. So there's a separation with that. And so you have to get to this point where, like, be honest with yourself again. Like, are you just in denial and you're not listening to your body and its cues and its desire for more? Or do you really just not have an appetite because that's something that really does happen because, we've weakened our body and we can't handle any food coming in? So, again, being honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm. And if it is the latter and you're just, I guess, used to restricting, then it's important to get into a new routine and to start building up the portions. And if you're in denial, then obviously it's important to recognize that and to get out of that state. So
yeah, exactly. And so then you'll challenge that, and so maybe you'll eat something, and then if you were like, something will happen and your appetite gets sparked again and your digestive fluids start flowing again properly and your appetite can come back with a vengeance. And then people get scared of that because then they start binging. Like, I went on like a few month-long binge and then yeah, you're scared of that because it's scary. It's like, people really, that's a huge concern. Like, is this ever gonna stop? Because it's hard to see when you've been in something for so long. Like, if you've had this feeling of insatiability, like you're never satiated, it's hard to see a life without feeling like that. But it can be possible. It can be, if you're just consistent over time. And depending on how long we've been in this mess, it can take a long time, like a year, a couple years, and then it's the physical is the easy part. The mental is the hard part that takes twice as long, if not more. Challenging these beliefs. So what did you do because that's actually a huge question that I get to, is like, what if I have no appetite or I'm having horrible digestive problems? How do I do this? Like, I'm not hungry. How do I eat? How do I eat enough?
I try to build it up. I try to stick to a routine. I think that one was quite important. Eating at certain times, not in a way that it's obsessive, but if you start to eat at given times, your body will start to get used to those times and get hungry around those times. So that was especially helpful for me. Also, at that point, as I believe I mentioned, I was in hospital in Hungary. I was hospitalized in Hungary after we moved there. And the hospital actually didn't provide any food, so my mom would bring food in the portions that she saw fit for me. So it wasn't me choosing the portions, it was my mom, which was probably a good thing. Yeah. So, I think just accepting help from other people and, giving up the control to do that is, that really helped me.
Yeah. That's so nice that you had support like that. Some people don't have support, and it's hard for family or friends to really understand what's going on unless they really dive into blogs or books about it and educate themselves, because it's hard to understand this unless you actually go through it. But like you bring up such a good point. It's coming to the point where it's okay to accept help.
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge problem, whether it's from a coach or from a family member, and then it takes away our control. Again, coming back to that control. We don't have the say all for, these clean eaters. Like, they're not focusing or stressing about every minute amount of ingredient that's going into it. That's why I recommend too going out to eat too in recovery, because it takes away the stress of you like neurotically measuring and calculating and stressing about every freaking thing that you put into it. So
yeah, maybe not initially. You might be stressed initially, but I think practice makes perfect. I think it's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. And not being hard on yourself if you don't like right away tackle these fears and the guilt and the shame. This takes work. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. Like, it takes a long time. And challenging the mental part, like, it's hard work. It takes a really strong person to go through this. Recovery is not easy. I mean, this is like a real deal. And it's again, like, of course, a lot of people in this, they're already hard on themselves, so they're going into it and they have that personality. So it's getting away from that. For once, like, be easy on yourself and remember to look at how far you've come and every little victory that you're doing. Like, celebrate that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, that's awesome, again, that you had your mom to help you. And that ties back in with the meal plan is even if you're not hungry, just eat something, like, consistently, not being obsessive, but still make sure that you're getting enough. That's why a lot of people are like, oh, should I count my calories in the beginning? And I hate the thought of counting calories or macros or, any kind of stuff like that. But in the beginning, for people that don't even have an appetite, or they are so like stuck in I need a small portion, it can be really good to get out of that.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the mentality. But yeah, I think it could be helpful to see if you're reaching a minimum. It could also turn obsessive quite quickly. So it's a bit of a balancing act. And I think also in this case, it might be helpful potentially just to have professional help or to have someone else monitoring you so that you don't have to put this task upon yourself, maybe.
Yeah, no, definitely. So that's another stressor that could be relieved at this time if you just ask for help. I have to assess like each person. Like, if they ask that, I'm like, okay, you just have to keep yourself in check. Like, where's your mind right now? Like, are you just going to turn this into another obsession? Like, neurotically worrying about if you're eating enough now. So now it was like not eating enough, and now you're worried about, am I doing recovery perfect? Because you can't do recovery perfect. So it's getting away from that perfectionistic mindset. So, yeah, I mean, a lot goes into recovery. We're challenging so much. We're like peeling off the layers of all of these things that have brought us into this mess, and it's uncomfortable. Okay, you guys, I just wanted to add in that we made this video really long, so if you haven't checked out Hanne's page, go to part 2. This is part 1, so it got long, so we needed to split it up because nobody wants to watch a 40-minute video. So yeah, link is in the description. Go to her page if you want to hear the rest. We talk about a whole shitload of stuff. We talk about binging and meal plans and help and letting go of control and veganism. So check that out. Link is below. Okay, bye guys.